Hello everybody, welcome to Frame Trap. I am your host, Ben Moore, and today I am joined by Michael Huber.
Hello.
And Bradley Ellis.
Yo.
It's October. It's Halloween time. And I know you're both fans of horror. I'm also a fan of horror. My question for you today, on this 117th episode of Frame Trap, what is the most afraid you've ever been from a movie, TV show, or game? Most fear that has been struck into your soul from any of those things?
Outlast.
Number one.
Shit.
Mm-hmm. Only because I was playing in the pitch dark, pitch black darkness. Beth usually will call or text me before she's coming home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that night, for whatever reason, she didn't. Scared out of my mind playing this game, she opens the front door and just the beaming light from the front door pierces in, and I swear I was so scared. I'll never forget it. I will never forget that moment. I was jumped up, dude, grabbed my heart. It's ah.
So how did it feel seeing Kyle go through that same fear when he played Outlast? Because he did that all by himself, right? Locked in a room.
So much fun. I remember I banged on the wall. Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, it's funny.
Brad, what do you got?
I don't know. I think I can't remember a ton of things, but I do remember the first time I played the first Resident Evil. I was very young when it came out, or we were young at the time, and I didn't really know a ton about it. I just knew it was kind of a spooky-esque kind of game, I guess.
Yeah.
And man, even that shot when that first zombie turns around over Kenneth's body, that little cinematic freaked me out. And the dog gave me a heart attack, I think, when it jumped through the window.
Yeah, the dog definitely got me as well.
Dude. Yes.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot more resilient with horror over time. It can still
I'm sorry.
No, you're
sorry.
good.
I do remember now. I'm sorry. It just totally came to mind. It's when I played RE7 in VR.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Shit out of me.
That is really scary.
Nice.
Mine is also Resident Evil. The spider thing has definitely calmed down a lot, but when I first encountered Resident Evil Remake, I believe I was in middle school, and I remember seeing those tarantulas in that game. They made my skin crawl in a way that nothing has in a long while. Yeah, they're just really fucked up, man.
Aren't they introduced in that shot where it's you're coming
in the door and they're right
in front of the camera?
Yeah. Oh, well, no, it's if I remember correctly, it's right above the door. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's messed up, man.
Yeah, that is messed up.
When I was very, very, very young, for whatever reason, I was really afraid of the Mars attack aliens as well.
Sure.
So freaky.
Yeah. They
freakos.
really freaked me out.
Dude, that triggered something in my brain when you said that, Ben. I feel
You were also afraid?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not anymore. Now they're just goofy, but yeah, at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow. We've got plenty of games to talk about. It's an interesting time in the video game world where I feel I'm playing a lot of stuff that I'm really enjoying, but I also feel we're getting closer to this door, and once we open it, we'll never turn back. It's the next gen fall rush of games door, and we're knocking on it. We're very, very close. But until that time, this is what we've been up to lately. Brad, I actually really want to start off with this because I haven't had a chance to play it at all yet, and I'm really curious because I haven't been following it closely. I've been preoccupied with other things. But Star Wars Squadrons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. A throwback / heavily inspired by the old PC N64 flight sim games in the Star Wars universe. I didn't get to play a lot of those, especially the TIE Fighter series. Yeah, the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. I didn't get to play any of those because I didn't have a PC at the time.
I missed those, but I really loved Rogue Squadron a lot.
Yeah, played a lot of Rogue Squadron. Did you play those PC ones, Mike?
Just Dark Forces 2, so no.
Okay.
None of not really X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, no.
Okay. So, yeah, but if you've played Rogue Squadron, you'll have an idea, kind of. But yeah, it's a cheaper, smaller, more focused game, I would say. All starfighters, all in space only, 8 ships total, smaller scale, but really solid at what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had no idea it was $40 until recently.
Yeah.
When you say smaller scale, right? Like, because the impression that I've got from the trailers is they're telling kind of this 2-pronged story with the Empire and the Rebellion.
Yeah.
How do those play out? Like, are you bouncing between the factions?
Yeah, you do. You do a few missions on like the New Republic, then the Empire, going back and forth like that. You're kind of, I don't really want to like say plot details, I guess. It's not really a big spoiler, but anyways, like they're both you play like in 2 separate squadrons, and both the squadrons kind of have things leading them towards each other, I guess, kind of certain events tying in. Yes, the whole like big thing, it's after Return of the Jedi, so like Palpatine did all that. So yeah, like the Galactic Empire's still around, but things are kind of falling apart. And the New Republic's coming in like that. Like all that's going on, but the story like focuses on like a very small part of that large story.
Okay.
Particularly this one New Republic weapon.
Mm-hmm. I am a big fan of Star Wars. I guess the weird apprehension that I have going into this is, as someone who like Star Wars has been part of my life, pretty much my entire life, do you feel like this story really breaks any new ground? I feel like, when you say it's like the Rebellion versus the Empire, like that doesn't have the same gravitas that it once did.
At this point, breaking ground, I would say in Star Wars is like a very hard thing to do, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the story, the scope of it overall isn't like something groundbreaking or brand new, something you've never expected before. But I think it did a good job with its cast of characters and actually kind of fleshing them out, surprisingly, for especially a game focused around space combat.
Okay.
But like each side has like 4 or 5 characters, and you actually get to know these characters. You get to talk to them, your squad mates, to find out a little more about them.
The missions themselves, I mean, when you say, totally focused on this dogfighting element, is there a lot of variety in objectives and a lot of variety in what you're choosing as weapons?
There's some variety. There's some variety in there. It definitely needed more, I think. Like it could use more variety to break things up, but there is missions, and there's side objectives you can do in missions a lot of times. Like destroy these carriers, you'll get a bonus like reward at the end of your mission, like a medal. I think like Rogue Squadron had a scoring thing kind of like that. But, you have like a few side objectives, defend this thing, maybe fly into this thing, blow it up. There's one level that I found that was really cool later on. Is like there's ships going through like kind of like a wreckage area, a bunch like a ship graveyard almost, and there's some mines there. So when ships are flying through, you have to shoot the mines at the right time to blow them up to make a chain reaction. But the majority of the game definitely focuses around on it's dogfight time. Mm-hmm. It's time to fight.
I think I had a brief conversation with you before we shot something. I don't remember what the thing was that we were shooting. It's a little blur, but you mentioned that you'd probably give it a lower score were it not for VR. So what is it about VR that is such a crucial component?
Man, it's just, so the whole game is in first person only, first of all.
That's kind of disappointing.
I love seeing the ships too.
Yeah.
But for VR, I think it's fine.
Sure,
to me, this is a game.
Sense.
To me, this is a VR game they made adjustments for so you can play without VR, but it feels like it's built from the ground up for VR. Like, just say you're in your cockpit, you're in your X-Wing. You can kind of look around without VR, but it's a little awkward. Like, you have to push the right stick down twice, then you can kind of freely look around. But when you're in the middle of a dogfight, you're not really going to do anything like that. So, but when you're in VR, obviously you're in the cockpit, man. You could just fully turn around. I found myself, you're chasing down a TIE fighter or something like that. So it flies up and you just look up and you can start following it easier. Mm-hmm. It's definitely playable. Like, I played a lot of the game without VR just to test it out, but I think for sure you should play this game in VR if you have the choice.
And you played exclusively on PC, right?
No, I played PS4 because I don't have a PC VR here right now.
So does it support PSVR?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I played on.
I guess it would have to if that's what you played it on.
Right.
Sorry if you already mentioned this, but about how long is the single player?
Probably altogether? Like 7, 8, or 9, depending on your skill level.
Okay.
I beat it around like 7.5 probably, or 7.
Okay. You played a lot of multiplayer as well for the review. Do you have a preference between the single player and the multiplayer? Do you get more satisfaction out of like honing your skills online versus?
I mean, it's just kind of a different thing, but I do like multiplayer because you're playing against real people, obviously, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I kind of do like multiplayer a lot. But like I brought this up in the review, there's only 2 multiplayer modes in the whole game. There's only 2 things. There's dogfighting, which is 5 ships v 5 ships. That's it.
Yeah.
Then there's like this. Dude, I just forgot the name of it. Something fleet, I believe. Sorry, but anyways, it has like giant spaceships in this, and you kind of have objectives. You have to do like waves. It kind of reminds me of like some Battlefield thing almost. Do these 2 teams. You got objectives, so you complete this objective, then it goes to the next phase, and the end of this thing culminates in like a fleet ships, like a Star Destroyer.
That sounds a lot like Battlefront. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was the most interesting mode out of the 2, and it's the only ranked mode in the game also. So that seems kind of be where their competitive aim is at.
Do you think you'd ever have any interest in returning to this game? A month from now, 2 months
maybe
from
down
now?
the line. Like I would just play it every now and then. It's only in VR though. Like if I didn't have VR, I probably wouldn't play it too much.
Gotcha.
But I just think the VR is so well done, and it like captures that feeling of being a pilot so well.
I really want to check it out on the Index. In this tiny apartment, getting VR set up appropriately can be kind of difficult. But
definitely.
Yeah. Huber, you are a fan of the Star Wars. You're usually there pretty immediately for a lot of Star Wars stuff. How are you feeling about Squadrons?
Curious about it for sure. After episode 9, just kind of was like a release of Star Wars, whether you like it or not. It just, it's like a new era now. It's kind of just the end of an era, if you will. Episode 9 was. So it's like I'm kind of just coming down from that. I'm not as attached to Star Wars at the moment. I think I need kind of a break from it.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, just the Rebel versus Imperial doesn't hit me as hard, it doesn't have as much weight as it did maybe a few years ago. And I don't have VR, so Squadrons has just kind of been on the back burner for me. But I am curious about it, especially because Brad loves it so much, and just I've heard really good things about the story, which is not what I expected to hear.
What things have you heard?
Just that the story's solid, that it's a solid Star Wars story. People are very critical of Star Wars right now. So
always,
the fact that yeah, always. So the fact that I just even heard that and saw those headlines and heard Brad and others, not necessarily hyping the hell out of it, but saying, hey, this is a good story. This is cool.
Yeah, it's solid. It does a good job of telling what it's trying to tell. It's very simple. I think that's what really helps a lot too. It's not overly complicated. It's pretty straightforward.
Brett, it's so weird because I think we're just kind of in a time where like saying it's solid is almost like a slight against it, where there's just so much that I want to play.
Yeah,
that it's harder to make time for things, and if it's not like best of the best, I don't know.
I think
still
it's
curious
really,
about it, but
if you play through the story on your VR, you'll have a really rad time.
Sure,
and you might do like a couple multiplayer matches. You'd be like, oh, that was really cool, but I can't see like you like sticking with it for weeks.
Sure, yeah,
but you can have like a good few days probably. You'd be like, oh, that was fun.
One of the games that we're going to talk about, I had such a satisfying experience with Crash 4, where I basically just spent the weekend with my wife just playing through the story. And I was like, I'm good. Like, I'm really happy that we got through it in a couple days, and I'm satisfied with my time. And I just felt very fulfilled. And so, I said this on something else too, where I was like, sometimes it's nice having those games that don't take you weeks or 100 hours or whatever. That could definitely be a benefit.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Baldur's Gate 3, a game that I really can't shut up about. So I streamed it today, just before this, and did an impressions video with Bloodworth. I've since gone on and gotten to the end of early access, so I feel like I've seen most of the stuff. content-wise that's in there, or at least it feels that way. But Brad, I want to start with you because you dipped into early access as well.
I sure did. I played it yesterday first time, and I played like 3.5, 4 hours of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Man, like, it's really good.
You're feeling it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm really feeling it. Like, yeah, I saw you bring this up too. Like, yeah, it needs work, obviously, from a technical point. But I think the writing's really good for what it is. I think the combat's super fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super invested in this story.
Brad, something that I definitely felt going into this, obviously playing Divinity Original Sin 2 was a benefit, but maybe even more than that, knowing how 5th edition D&D worked, gave me a huge advantage when it's like, yeah, this is what this does. This is what a bonus action is. This is
definitely
how combat works. So it seems like you felt that as well.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh yeah, proficiency bonuses. I remember all of this.
Yeah. So what class race did you pick? Were you overwhelmed with the options that you had? Do you wish there were more?
I didn't know what I wanted to pick. It took me a little bit, but I wasn't overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. There wasn't like 30 classes. Like when I remember playing Divinity 2 for the first time.
Yeah.
That was the first time I played a game kind of like that, and it seemed so much more overwhelming if you wanted to make your own character, where I was like, damn, this seems super complex, but Baldur's Gate didn't seem too complex. It felt like you had choice and decisions you made matter.
Right.
But I didn't feel like, man, I gotta look up some fucking guide how to play this game or something like that.
Yeah. I definitely do feel like the racial bonuses are strong enough that it's like, well, okay, clearly they're going to excel with this class or this class. And so...
Yeah. I picked a drow rogue.
Brad, I was a wood elf rogue.
Yeah, I almost picked ranger, but I was like, oh, I'll try rogue.
During the stream, I picked ranger, and it was great because you could summon a little animal companion.
Dude.
And I summoned a crab, and chat got really attached to my little crab friend.
Dude, are you ready for this? I was watching Kristen play it. She's a ranger also. She summoned a bear.
Yes.
A bear companion.
Yeah,
and I was like, God damn. That's super joint. Yep. But I think they're going to add more classes
They're going to add more classes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Brad Rogue is just so powerful. Like you get...
That's why I was like, oh, Rogue's going to be really OP. Yeah. Because I remember it from D&D. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's pretty good in D&D.
You could just get so much movement. Being able to have dash as a bonus action is very big. Dual wielding is great. You're also pretty strong at range. Being able to like easily lockpick stuff is extremely helpful. You get pretty good at persuasion as well.
Yeah.
They cover a lot of bases.
But the only thing is like there's a character you meet that's a rogue also, and I'm like, damn, dude, this guy's cool, but like I don't know if I need 2 rogues right now.
Yeah. So in kind of my main playthrough, I didn't use him because of that reason, because he doubled up on classes. But Brad, I don't know how many did you get all the party members?
Let's see. I have, I think I have everybody.
Okay. Because that was actually one of the joys of getting all the companions. Not only do I think they're pretty good characters on their own, but I had fun with just about every class. One of the characters you get is a warlock, and they can also summon a familiar like an imp or a raven.
Yeah.
And that's pretty fun and can be pretty decent in combat. And man, there's just so much you could do. It's a lot like Divinity in the sense that like you could just pick up objects and throw it at people, or there were like I was fighting a bunch of spiders and they were on spider webs, and you could shoot the spider webs to make them fall down and go prone and then go and beat them up. And there's just a lot of improvisation
so much
in how things play out. Brad, how did you feel about exploration and the design of the world and the options that you had when you were exploring?
Man, I feel like I guess I'm not like super far in the grand scheme of things, but I feel like I've had a lot of choices of things I could already do, a lot of areas to already explore. So I like at this point in the game, I feel like I've kind of I'm scratching the surface right now.
Yeah,
especially in this one act. Like, but there's so many things already open to me where I'm like, man, I could do this thing, and some of my situations play out way different than I imagined they would have. Like, some decision comes up and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even like think about that, something like this happening.
Yeah.
And you roll your dice, maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't. And it's just like shit.
Yeah. I would say for the most part, when you fail, it can be pretty enjoyable. There are a couple of times where like a conversation goes wrong and you get into a battle and it's like, whoa, this battle seems like way too much. And so I think maybe that could be tuned a little bit.
I did high charisma and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For things like this, I was like, this is going to be a problem if I don't nail some of these checks.
Yeah. That's actually hugely important. I would say like skills like persuasion, deception, intimidation are all used a lot and can really help you out. One of your characters, that warlock that I was talking about, does have a high charisma, and so having him kind of take command, having Will take command.
Yeah, how cool is that? You can just be like, oh, I'm going to play as this character right now and have them talk and make decisions because they might have stats that might help me out here.
It's great. Brett, I'm curious if you'll go through this arc, but essentially my response to Baldur's Gate 3 was like, hey, this is pretty good. Man, it's really buggy, but it's pretty good. It's like, you kind of like get your party members more quickly than I expected, but it's neat and you get into cool situations. And then I kind of like hit this threshold where I was like, oh, this just keeps going. Like I ran into situations that I absolutely fell in love with. And I would say some of the end encounters in the early access build, they feel so expansive and you have so many options, and the options are just immensely entertaining to play through. Like you're like, I can't even believe they're letting me do this. And I love that feeling. And like a good sort of non-super spoilery example of what I'm talking about is you go to this village where there are all these goblins, and I talked them down. And then I just was exploring. I was just like, I'm just going to check out the houses. The goblins aren't hostile to me. And I saw that there was this hole in the ground. It was covered by spider webs. And I was like, I'm just going to clear these spider webs and then jump down this hole. And it's like, oh, there's all this stuff in here. Wait a minute. There's this breakable wall. What happens if I break through this wall? I did. It led me to an entirely different area with brand new monsters and loot. And then that area goes even further. And it's just like this snowballing effect of exploration. And it's so exciting and addicting when your curiosity gets rewarded like that. Like it's not just a dead end, or it doesn't just play out how you would expect. It,
like, obviously I think this is intent of the design of the game, but it definitely made me feel like when we were playing D&D.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of like these possibilities that are kind of open and these kind of like almost ridiculous things you can almost do.
Yes.
This freedom and choice you have, it's pretty insane.
Yeah. I think there are definitely people out there when they hear about that freedom and choice. It's not that it doesn't sound appealing, but I definitely think this can be like an intimidating genre for
sure. Yeah,
people to jump into. Do you think this game is intimidating? Do you think it explains itself clearly enough?
I think it did a pretty good job at explaining things. I do think because I had some knowledge of how 5th edition worked, I understood things maybe a little more. I did not investigate like tutorials though, or anything like that, so I'm not sure how well they explain things to you, but I feel like the fights they put you in at the beginning of the game are pretty damn easy.
Yeah. So
they give you like time explaining that.
That's what I was going to say is, maybe not perfect, but I think that opening area, it's like you have all of these things that can instantly heal you. The fights are extremely easy. They do kind of come up and take everything individually, where it's like, okay, here's how you jump, here's kind of how combat works, and all of that. And then beyond that, you can get all the party members pretty quickly, and so you have a lot to play around with and a lot of ground to cover mistakes. And I think just getting to like the next level 2, and getting some more HP and stuff like that happens really quickly. And so there are definitely extremely difficult situations that you can get in, but
yeah, I think early on you don't get really put anything where you, like, if you just know the basics, the very, very basics, you can get through the early parts of this game pretty fine.
Huber, I know you have been resistant in the past to early access. Does knowing that you don't get the full game and that it's buggy kind of turn you away from Baldur's Gate 3?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Okay.
Just waiting for the full release. There's just so much to play. Like, I don't want to invest time into something that I'll have to redo. super hyped for this game. Cannot wait.
Yeah.
But it's like a unicorn kind of, just kind of keeping it down the field.
Yeah.
Waiting to play. Yeah, I can just remember Baldur's Gate 2, like, getting to spots where I just couldn't go further because it was so impossible. That's my experience with the franchise. It's just like playing a little 2 growing up and just like it being just like getting like not building my character properly because I was like too young, so I just like didn't know what the hell. So I'm excited to like revisit this world. I still want to go back and like play 1 and 2 more, but I doubt
you'll get burnt out probably dude, if you try to do both before 3.
And they're probably still hard as hell, like even as an adult.
Sure, yeah.
It's been a long time since I've played any 2 or 1, but playing 3 has definitely made me... I'm curious as well. Kind of like, oh, okay, like I played this as a kid. What's it like now as an adult? Very curious.
It's been very interesting playing this game, Ben, after playing Divinity, because I just noticed like the presentation budget and how much more vast it is. Like the things they could do with like presenting stories. Because the Divinity, you get like a text bubble with a character portrait, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But now we're getting like cutscenes with like that are like Witcher status, like seeing the characters talk to each other now.
Yeah. I feel like I have this kind of fear that sometimes when RPGs get more budget, they sort of reduce complexity. But I really haven't found that to be the case. There's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of animations and jankiness.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of dialogue, conversations, just the animations not play out as they should. But when it is working, it is actually really impressive. It's nice being able to see the characters emote and have the camera go back and forth. It's so much more engaging than just boxes, right?
Yeah.
It adds a lot. And I do think the character models look generally pretty good.
Yeah, they do.
As well. And yeah,
Good character creator.
Good character creator.
Yeah. Good character creator.
Good character creator. Don't think it's finalized yet, but I think what is there is definitely promising. And that's how I would sum up kind of the whole thing. Oh, man. I do have to share this, though, just because it's funny. So obviously you can get involved with romance with your characters. And I was romancing a character. And, they're having an intimate scene and just a giant image. I believe it was like a mind flare and just yellow text under construction. And so they're just like having an intimate moment. It's just like,
that's funny.
This isn't here yet.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this game is a good promise of concept, and I would say I'm very happy with the work they've done so far. Definitely needs some work, but I think what's there is promising, like you said.
Yeah. Huber, you had a bad experience with Mafia 2, the remake of Mafia 2. How was your experience with Mafia Definitive Edition?
Well, the remaster of 2.
The remaster of 2. You know what I mean.
Dude, loved Mafia Definitive Edition. Loved it so much. I'm resting easy now. Yeah, I was very concerned because it's just kind of been a bad go of Mafia lately. 3 has a really cool story, but the world and the objectives and the gameplay just dragged on and on and on, and it was so repetitive. And when it came out too, that was a little janky. So this has always been one of my favorite franchises. Because of my dad, I just love the history I just love history in general, but also the history of like organized crime and the mafia, whether it's documentaries or feature films or shows like Boardwalk Empire. I just think it's really interesting. And Mafia is just one of those games that is still unique to me. You know, it's a linear game set in an open world. Like the world is so engrossing and atmospheric, and there's so much. It's just so unique. Like you don't see 1930s Mafia that much in video games. So I just love the time period and the setting and the focus on story. Just love it.
Yeah, I think it's great too. I actually played through it too recently.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I finished it as well, right? You finished it?
I finished it.
Yeah.
My introduction with the Mafia series was Mafia 2, which I actually enjoyed a lot. And then I remember I went to a preview event for Mafia 3, and Mafia 3 was like a super frustrating game for me where I liked the story and the lead character quite a bit, but I did not enjoy playing it almost at all. And that really turned me away. But I had, growing up, I had heard a lot of great things and a fair amount of reverence for Mafia 1, despite the fact that I never had a chance to play it myself. With something like Mafia Definitive Edition and the position that I'm in, I'm a little bit worried that I would be missing something by not having that original experience.
No. Not at all.
Okay.
It's such a faithful remake. It's a little more it's a little more thriller based, a little more hard boiled. It's got more of an edge than the original. The original is like kind of reflective and a little melancholic, and Tommy is a little more reserved. This one is a little more
the students,
like a little more, just a little more intense, a little edgier. But
is that a good change in your opinion?
It's a cool change, I think. Yeah, it works. We're in 2020 now. It works. Yeah, the vibe. I just really like the vibe of it. Because everything else is so faithful. I like that this stands out. It separates it a little bit. It's not like identical of a remake. Because it is very faithful. I mean, all the missions, the mission titles, the story beats. Like, so much of it is like, I found myself just that nostalgic feeling of like, oh my god, I'm here now. Like, oh, this is so cool. And like, you kind of know where it's going. And it's been like quite a while since I played through the first one, but there were so many missions where I was like, oh my god, I remember this mission. Here we go. Or like, oh, I can't wait to get to that mission. Or
So when
just really cool.
You're talking about missions and you're talking about it being faithful. What exactly are you doing in these missions? And does that still hold up?
Yeah, there's just such a focus on story. There's about 20 missions, and the first bit is really small time, slow paced. You're a taxi driver and you get thrown in to the mob just by chance. Something goes down and all of a sudden you kind of get involved with the mafia. And from there, it just, like any criminal story, I feel like, you start small time and you get deeper into it, like more intense, until eventually like murder is on the table and like shit escalates. And the story just holds up. And just the relationships of the three main characters. You got Paulie, Sam, and Tommy. Tommy's your lead. And just the criminal organization that they work for, Salieri. The Salieri crime family.
You said taxi driving, and you just made me think of the Yakuza 5 taxi driving side quest chain, which I just did all of recently. And the way that progresses and how it resolves is so good.
The missions are really, really cool. That's what I love about them. The shootouts themselves are fine. They're serviceable. Mechanically, not the greatest thing you'll ever play, not the worst thing you'll ever play, but it's the scenarios to me that make them special. You're having a shootout at a diner, or like a roadside gas station, or a big glamorous hotel. Just the scenarios that you're in really, really make the encounters feel special. It's like each mission is its own set piece in a way.
Is it cover-based shooting?
Cover-based. Feels like Mafia 3.
Okay.
Wouldn't be surprised if they had like reused some stuff there from Mafia 3. No big deal. Looks beautiful. Looks even better than Mafia 3. Mafia 3 looked great. And this looks great. Runs really well. Played on PS4. No issues, especially coming off of the Mafia 3 launch and the Mafia remasters of 2 and 3. They were just so buggy. Even like immediately finished 1 and dove into 2 because I was just itching for this franchise so bad. Just like needed to just keep going. and like still buggy, you know. So
what a shame.
But like the first one runs well, so that's what matters.
Did you play on PC?
PS4.
PS4. Okay.
And then Brad played on PC.
PC.
Yeah.
Oh man, sorry, I have to ask Huber something.
Yeah.
Huber, so there's like some missions in the game where they kind of put you in a situation where you like, I had this feeling of like options almost. Like, hey, you're in this area, kill this guy, but also do this sub kind of thing. And I was thinking, I'm like, oh man, can I maybe do this without getting seen or stuff like that? Is that in the game, some events like that? Or is it like, yo, you got to just shoot this guy in the head?
Yeah, I remember the original, you just shoot that guy in public like that. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have a problem with that. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Because I like got in the situation maybe because we've played games like this, you know, we're like, oh, I
Yep.
can do this thing, this kind of thing.
Yeah. Very linear game.
Yeah.
Very linear, like always pulling you to a new area. Because the city is just such a big part of this game, is Lost Heaven. It's just one of my favorites. And like, obviously there's not a lot to do in it. You know, the missions are always pulling you from one area of the city to another. You know, you're not going off doing side quests and finding hidden packages. Like, there are collectibles, but you're getting pulled from one location to the next. But, you know, it's just so awesome. Like, you're driving these old-timey cars. You're driving really slow. If you speed, police will pull you over and give you a ticket.
Yeah.
The radio broadcasts are always changing with the times. You know, this takes place over the course of many years. Just such a pleasure to be in this world. It just is so immersive. Like, that's such a cliche word in journalism nowadays, but it's like,
it really is
so immersive.
I think if you hop into this game and are expecting, I want to go off and like just explore and find stuff, like, this is not the game for you. This is not what this game's about at all. It is very point A, point B kind of thing. You stay on this track, you do this kind of thing.
Yeah. There is a mode called Free Ride. The original had Free Ride and Free Ride Extreme. Free Ride Extreme had really cool missions where, like, you'd be chasing an invisible man or like some weird stuff would go down. That is here now, Free Ride. And you can get like really secret souped up cars. The missions are a little, they're okay. You go up to a phone booth, some text will pop up, you know, it doesn't have that production value of, you know, cinematics like the campaign. But it is a cool diversion, and you're free to explore the city, find collectibles. So Free Ride allows you to fully explore the city and do what you want. Just know that there's not a lot of, you know, side stuff.
Yeah, you can't like walk into like every building, you know, buy clothes, a bunch of stuff like that. No, it's not GTA, I guess.
Yeah,
it's a very broad way to say it.
It's not GTA.
When I reflect back on my Mafia 2 playthrough, again, that's a game I'm fond of, but when I think about it, the things that really stuck with me were just how much I enjoyed the story and how invested I was in the characters. It has almost nothing to do with the gameplay, which is like, I can't even like recall a lot of specific gameplay moments. Like it just wasn't the strength of that game in my mind. Is that the same situation with Mafia 1 where you talk about how immersive it is and how attached you are to the world? But are you more there for that immersion in those characters than you are kind of the moment-to-moment gameplay?
For sure. I love shotguns and Tommy guns, and this game has plenty of those, as well as melee, like baseball bats. Like, smashing someone with a baseball bat in this game is brutal. You, like, feel it. It's very intense. And as I said earlier, the scenarios, you know, we're out in the countryside, some bootlegging deal gone wrong.
Yeah.
Like crooked cops. It's just
the Huber vibe.
Yeah, it's just got that classic, it's like so many tropes, but I'm here for it. Like,
Ben,
it's a classic mocktail.
I don't think it's like, man, this combat feels really good or something like that. It's just these situations you're kind of put in and everything going around it that's interesting about it.
Yeah.
I played on Classic. There's 4 difficulties: easy, normal, hard, and Classic. I appreciated Classic because you and others die very fast. So it just made combat really lethal. which I appreciated. Like, you would be behind cover, and it's not just like, okay, pop out, bang, 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 bang. It's like, no, I'm in cover, and I'm so vulnerable. They're shooting Tommy guns at me. So you do feel that stress and that intensity, which I really liked, because they and you go down so quickly. There's like a bolt action rifle. I felt like Richard Harrow sometimes, Brad, just like popping up, quick headshot, pop down. Like, so again, I don't want to praise or shame the combat, because it was again, it's not the best, but it is cool, especially if you crank up the difficulty, if you're into that. Like, there were a lot of times I died a bunch of times in missions and had to replay them. Like, I know a lot of people aren't into that, but I'm glad that you had those options with easy, normal, hard, and classic. Yeah,
that's actually a sensation that I really cherish in games that I don't find a lot of games do super well. And obviously you're talking about a harder difficulty specifically, but that's something about Baldur's Gate 3 that I like, where it's not so much that a lot of these combat encounters are like, oh my god, I don't even know what to do, but rather it's like, if I don't pay attention and use the resources that I have, I'm going to get punished. And I like that. It's because I don't think it's always so much about being hard. It's about being interesting and making you think, and not just like, I feel like there are plenty of games where it's just like, all right, I figured it out, and now I'm just going to copy and paste that strategy, until the end of time. And it's just not interesting at all. But
fun game. I'm glad it's back. I'm so excited now for this. Like, I need Mafia 4. Like, I'm gonna go finish Mafia 2.
Are they doing Mafia 4?
Mafia 3. I hope so. Like, there are rumors. I need more Mafia. This franchise is back. It's crazy that in 18 years there's only been like 3 games and a remake. So it's not like some Assassin's Creed thing. It's like every time one of these comes out, it's a big deal. I'm really excited. Got this series back on track, I feel like.
Is it $60? Is it full price?
So it's $60 and you get the whole trilogy. Again, those versions are a little but you $60 and you get this entire franchise. So generous.
The
40 if you buy. Yeah, 40 if you buy one standalone.
Okay.
Again, for Mafia 2 specifically, I bet the original version is better. So if you can somehow find the original, it might be some auto upgrade. I don't know. Again, I do not recommend the Mafia 2 Definitive Edition specifically.
Brad, let's talk about Genshin Impact, which I didn't even know you were playing.
Brad's playing Genshin, dude? What?
Yeah. I should have known. Playing a lot of games the past 2 days. Now I don't have a review to do.
Yeah, I streamed this, and then I played a little bit more beyond the stream, but then I got Baldur's Gate 3 and completely switched focus from that. But I will say I want to play more Genshin Impact. I like it a lot and was not necessarily expecting to. I don't really know what I expected going into it. I think I've checked out enough gacha games and gotten to a point where they all kind of feel cynically very similar.
Sure.
And there certainly have been gacha games that I've gotten into, but I feel like they always wear me down, and maybe that will happen with Genshin Impact. But there's a lot more going on here than with your average gacha game. Would you agree with that, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of experience with gacha games and stuff like that, but there's like a main story quests and like cutscenes and voice acting, all that. Like, I did not expect that kind of stuff.
Yeah, especially at where I am, it really feels like a big single player RPG. And
yeah, definitely.
Of course, expectedly, you have side quests to go after and things to complete and that sort of stuff, all of the kind of the hallmarks of the genre. But and the Breath of the Wild influence is immediate and obvious. The glider that you get is very Breath of the Wild-esque. There are towers that you need to go to and you'll reveal chunks of the map. But beyond that sort of copycat nature, it is kind of fun just going out into the world. And you'll see something in the distance, and you're like, oh, what is that? And it's like, oh, well, to get up there, you'll have to climb and then go up, and then, while you're doing that, you see a chest that's being protected by monsters. You have to kill all the monsters to get it. And so there is a good deal, seemingly at least, of exploration and discovery. And it's just so pleasant to look at.
Yeah.
That
looks great. Runs great too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or runs good for me. Ben, I think that really helps with this game though too is the combat is like very different. I feel like than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
It feels very different. It's like much more action-y, I guess.
Yeah, well, beyond the fact that it is more action-y, like you're saying, you don't have to worry about weapon durability, but also you're switching between characters.
Characters on the fly,
Yep.
you can do it really fast.
Yeah, and you're supposed to, because different characters will be different elements, and so you want to combine, and I feel like you can pretty much just combine two of any element and something will happen.
It'll do something, yeah.
But that's kind of the point, is that you have setups and you use your basic attacks and your specials to create extra damage for your characters. And it's pretty satisfying. It's certainly not the deepest thing in the world.
No. It's not, you're not like air juggling.
Yeah.
Devil May Cry keeping combos going, stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's pretty damn good right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been pleased with how unintrusive microtransactions have felt to me.
Yeah.
Where I haven't, obviously there is stuff you could do. And it's, of course, it's a free-play game. There's a bunch of things that you can spend money on if you want. But I felt like, I haven't gotten to a point where, my progress has been slowed down because I haven't paid money or anything like that. Everything paying money wise is to get new characters or upgrading weapons, but even if I haven't done a ton of that, I still feel like you can get through this game pretty easily without having to spend money.
Yeah.
It's not a hard game. You get a bunch of tools, you can upgrade your weapons with that stuff, but I don't know later on how it is.
I would agree with you. Hold on a second. Oh boy. I had a Zoom error. Okay, we should be back. Sorry for that little hiccup, everybody. But we should be okay. Yeah, Brad, I was going to say that I don't know if the gacha wall happens and the pressure to spend money increases at all, but I would certainly say with where I'm at in the game right now, yeah, I don't feel any need to spend money whatsoever because, and I think this is a point of praise to the game, I feel like I have enough to do. I'm not only in it to roll the dice on gacha stuff.
Right.
I'm more invested in exploring the world and uncovering things and doing quests and getting further in the story and expanding the map that's how you want to feel. I don't want to just be I can't have any fun if I don't have this or this.
It's not your characters getting stuff like that is not the end all be all of this game. Right. You could still have a good time. You could want some other characters, but you'll be fine on your own. The game gives you characters free and stuff like that, or a lot of characters actually, and you can get through this game with just those basic characters.
Yep. How are you feeling about the story and the voice acting so far?
Story, dude, I don't even really know what the hell's going on too well. Some dragons or some shit, I don't know. The voice acting's okay, I guess. You have this companion character with you, and she's kind of annoying, but
Paimon, yeah.
It's just some
emergency
anime bullshit, I guess. I don't know. I'm just yes.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good way to sum it up. It is, in a lot of ways, anime bullshit. It's not... Nothing that I've seen has been...
It's not
breaking.
Right. Where I'm just I'm yes, anime characters kind of thing. Not super annoying, I guess. A lot of the characters aren't really that annoying or anything like that, but just that one character in particular, I was yes, anime.
Right. It is not fantastic by any means. I was surprised. There's more of an effort placed on the story than I was expecting.
Same.
And I would say some of what I've been doing has been more fun than I was expecting. I thought it was just going to be a lot of simple combat. And again, I don't know exactly how this game evolves completely. But there was one quest I did where it was just you just have to hunt for treasure. And, certainly not the only game that has done this. Ghost of Tsushima did something similar where they like give you a photograph and you have to, based on the environment, go find the thing. I always really enjoy that. I love that stuff. I love it, a reason to explore a world beyond, you have a quest marker here, go after that quest marker. But yeah, there's something about it. I think this is very intentional. That is just kind of soothing about the world, where I don't always feel like I need to play it for very long, but periodically I've been like, oh man, I'd kind of like to dip back in and cook some food or raise my adventure rake or something. But do you think it's something you'll stick with, Brad?
Yeah, I want to keep playing it. I don't know, like I'm going to do huge binge sessions of it.
Yeah.
I want to see how far the story goes and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm going to be grinding it out, to make my character the best they can kind of be. But I do enjoy going through this world, one, because it looks really great.
Yeah.
But it's a sense of exploration. Like, it doesn't give me, like, I don't feel like I'm getting, like, these Breath of the Wild sensations I did at the time of exploration, but it is still really enjoyable going out and seeing this world.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't have, nor do I think I'm close to unlocking co-op, but it'd be interesting to do that with you and see how that is, and I'm curious about how the end game goes. But yeah, surprisingly pleasant.
Surprisingly pleasant.
Surprisingly pleasant is how I would describe Genshin.
It's on PS4, Huber, too.
PS4, PC,
splendid.
Yeah.
Phone.
Mobile. Yeah.
Yeah. Ian has played it a little bit on phone.
Interesting.
Yeah. I have not, just because I don't know.
I think about like playing that game on a phone, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I should try it out. I have it downloaded, but like games where you're controlling a 3D character in an action game on a phone, I have a hesitation.
Yeah.
I do. I don't know. Dragalia Lost controlled pretty well, but Huber, I am going to give you the BESTAKE this episode. I really felt you during the Mafia Definitive Edition and your enthusiasm for what that was bringing about, and how it kind of like honored something that was precious to you, I guess I would say. The BESTAKE this week, and if you're not familiar with what this segment is, basically I'm going to give Huber a topic and he's going to form a combo of good opinions about this topic, where he says one thing, I may challenge him on it, I may not, and then he says another thing, and we just keep going. The BESTAKE, because this is the season, the topic is Halloween candy.
Shit. Okay. King size candy bars are the culmination on Halloween night. That's the end game. King size candy bars are the end game.
I mean, obviously it's been a long time since I've gone trick-or-treating, but I don't know if I remember like anyone giving out king sizes.
Oh, so rare.
My neighbor.
But when it hits, boom.
Okay. Do you wait a minute. If this is the culmination for you, do you give out king size candy bars on Halloween?
I did one year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Was that expensive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Breaking the bank.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
You got to do it once, man. You got to pay back the memories that you got from someone else.
Okay. It was like the year, we were younger, but it was like the year when I was just like old enough to be a little too old to trick or treat. It felt like we were like teenagers. It was like, all right, I'm going to stay home with the parents this time and hand out candy.
I feel like that's such a natural inclination. Like, I remember when I got my first job, it was at a grocery store, and I got that first paycheck, and it's like, never having gotten a paycheck before, I was like, I have to spend all of this. And like, I went to Best Buy, and I bought like every Metallica record that they had. And I was like, this is the greatest day of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. King size candy bars, culmination on Halloween night. Give me another one.
This is Halloween candy, right?
Halloween candy.
Okay. Candy corn should only be eaten in October.
I hate candy corn.
Or never.
Like, all right. Even if you like candy corn, right?
Settle down, everyone. Yeah. If you like it, just enjoy it. You don't need to preach your candy corn. And just like, I won't come after you for eating the candy corn.
Are there candy corn creatures?
There's like a candy corn.
Yeah,
Candy corn
Brandon
Mafia?
Jones, dude.
Yeah.
Relax, dude.
Yeah. You just go enjoy it. Like, cool.
Okay, the question is, though, like, even if you enjoy candy corn, there are better candies. Like, even if you like it, you have to think there are better candies, right? Like, is it... It's just so waxy. Feels, I don't know.
It's good in doses. It's good in small doses. I like it. Like on Halloween or All Hallows Eve, I'll have a couple pieces, but then I'm good.
Kind of off topic, but I'm curious because I feel like it is divisive as well. How do you feel about eggnog at Christmas time?
I hated eggnog my entire life. Last year I was like trying to get into it and I didn't hate it, so that's progress.
I really like it a lot. It was just something my dad and I shared, but
it's awesome. I want to like it. I'm gonna try it again this year.
Brad, any thoughts on eggnog?
Yeah, fuck eggnog.
All right.
I don't mess with that shit. I hate that shit's gross, dude.
Oh, I love it. All right, Huber, keep going.
Taking see, I want to give advice, but I'll make it an opinion. Okay. Taking homemade goods from a stranger on Halloween is a bad idea.
It is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Terrible idea.
Yeah,
Dude,
man.
I don't think I've ever gotten a homemade good from Halloween.
I'm pretty sure I did, and my parents were like, "Nah, you're not eating that." And they're not wrong. Like, no offense to who's ever out there working their ass off making these homemade goods.
Don't do it, yeah.
But
unless you personally know them,
yeah,
then that's okay, I guess. But I wouldn't mess with it. I'm good.
Yeah.
Do you got one more in you?
Yes. Halloween candy tastes better when you pull it out of a pillowcase.
That's true.
Huber, I agree with that so hard.
Yeah, that's true.
Question to throw at you regarding Halloween candy. Is it better to space it out or have that Halloween night splurge?
Both, man. You get so much that you can splurge on Halloween night until you're stuffed, and then you still have your reserve stash.
All right. Mm-hmm. Admirable effort regarding Halloween candy. This BESTAKE is brought to you by a few wonderful shout-out to your patrons. If you'd like to be shouted out on all of our podcasts, go to patreon.com/easyallies where you can find out more information. Again, we do shout you out on every podcast show that we have. And for this shout-out, I want us to do it in your spookiest voice that you can summon. It seems only appropriate considering we discussed Halloween candy. But don't do it until after I've read the three names. Our shoutouts are Elthanas, Greg TheDarkKnight Kettering, and Caleb Togi Crawford. Shout out! Was it spooky at all?
Depends. What's spooky? Like a little ghost going, this is a show.
At least it's like in the season, man. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Shout out.
Maybe we all sucked there.
Shout out the blah.
Yeah, shout out vampire. Blah. Huber, what in the world is Wintermoor Tactics Club?
So I heard about this game because from the creators described it as cozy. So they got me. So I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean your game is cozy?
Yeah.
Yeah. This game is very delightful. You are a student at Wintermoor School, and you are part of the Tactics Club, D&D. You have a D&D group, and the principal declares that there's going to be a war of the clubs. That's kind of the premise of the game. There's a war of the clubs, and only the last club standing will be able to maintain their club. All the other clubs will be disbanded.
Why is he?
So if you lose this snowball fight, you get your club disbanded.
Why is he doing this?
That is the big mystery. That's part of the story, so I don't want to spoil it. But In between, there's like just a few chapters. There's 5 or 6 chapters. Each chapter is like a few hours. It's a tactics game, so you can go to your D&D board and battles play out tactically on the board.
When you say board, is it grid based?
Yeah, grid-based movement. You have your warrior class, your mage, your rogue, standard stuff. Like rogue can move fast, does a lot of damage, but takes a lot of damage. Mm-hmm. Your tank can take a lot of hits, but just doesn't move very far, and he doesn't deal that much damage. You can build up a super meter. So there are mechanics. Then side quests actually are really cool because during the chapters, you're walking around the school. And there's different areas. It's a top-down view, kind of isometric view when you're walking around the school. And you can talk to different NPCs. Some of them will have side quests, and then when you do their side quest, you'll get an item for your character. So that's kind of how the items work out. So the side quests are cool because you get a little story beat, and you get a cool item for your character.
Is this story and these side quests, are they voice acted?
There's no voice acting.
Okay.
Indie game, pretty low budget. Mm-hmm. Even like, dude, after a while, it was like starting to get frustrating because there's like 5 or 6 areas of the school you go to. There's like the dorms, the quad, the stadium. Every time you transfer between them, there's loading. And it's like 20 seconds of loading each time, it feels like. So it's just like you're constantly going to each one and it's loading. So after a while, that kind of dragged on. But, indie game, low budget. I was like, whatever. I was really invested in the characters. The main character, Alicia, she's like wants to have her club survive, but she also feels terrible by beating the other club. She feels so guilty of like, now they don't get to be like. So she's just a really cool character, and it's really cool. Kind of the rhythm of the game. It's not really a spoiler, but every time you beat a club, someone from that club will want to join you. Like this is kind of the rhythm of the game. So then you beat the club, then that's how you get new party members, is like one of them will come over to you, and it's really cool. It's a game about bonds. It's a game about different people coming together that, didn't necessarily see eye to eye. Mm-hmm. So it's like to get them to feel at home and welcome, she'll do their like D&D backstory, and you kind of get to fill in the blanks. You get to choose, it'll be like, all right, who's the villain? Like, what kind of villain should we do? Or, what is her purpose for joining the club? And you can like choose a bunch of things. So it's just a really neat game, really, really cozy, like they said. And I was just attached to the characters.
A few questions. You mentioned like doing the side quests and getting a reward, like an item that you can put on a character. Are there like a bunch of items that you can equip? Is it like, you can put a hat on and gloves and boots and all of that? Or is it just like, they just have a couple of like accessory slots?
Glad you asked that. There's like 2 or 3, depending on the character. Offensive, defensive, maybe another one.
Okay.
Categories of items. And then there'll be like if you manage to find and equip all of the items in a category, then you get like the super ability,
like a set bonus.
Yeah, set bonus for sure. Exactly. Yes. So that encourages you to kind of like track down these other items.
Nice.
Some of them are pretty tough because like the game's not too challenging, but there are optional. Like you have your D&D board, right? Mm-hmm. So there are optional. Like you're doing your own D&D campaign separate from the main plot of the game. So some of those can be really challenging. There's like these optional challenge missions on the D&D board that are really, really tough, that have different parameters. It'll be like, keep this one character alive, or make sure this character takes no damage. So if you finish that, you can get like a really good item. So.
When you are like sort of helping out these other characters, is that how you recruit them into? Do you recruit characters?
Yeah, it's when you like disband a club usually. So like, spoiler alert, have to win to progress. So like you will beat a club. It's a big tournament. It's a school-wide tournament.
Yeah.
So it's like there's the brackets. So like each time you'll face a different opponent. And then when you take out one of their clubs, you know, someone will be like, hey, can I maybe join you?
But it's not all of them. It's not like you're bringing the whole club. Is it just one character?
Usually one character per So
are there a lot of side quests?
A fair amount, yeah. There were a fair amount. It was like, yo, find, you know. Oh, and then like there's side opportunities too. It'll be like spy on our opponents, find out their secrets, and then if you do manage to like spy on them, you know, it'll be like track them down, like go spy on them, and then maybe like do another kind of small like interaction with some characters and like some dialogue stuff. You get a little buff when you face them in combat. So it'll be like, oh, we know that they like to do this because we were kind of spying on them and talked to some people and we learned something about them. Now we're resistant to that kind of attack or something.
Gotcha. So. I feel like a lot of tactics games sort of prioritize positioning. Like, is that something you have to worry about? Like, do you have to get the high ground?
Totally.
Do you want to like flank enemies and things like that?
So nothing really like high ground, but like some attacks can be there's a fair amount of depth. Nothing crazy, not like Banner Saga or anything, but some attacks you can modify to either attack in a beam or attack in a cone.
Okay.
Or
since they're
like stuff like that.
Since they're cribbing so much from D&D, a big thing about D&D, right, is like when you cast spells, you can only cast a limited number of them. You know, you have to worry about slots. Is that sort of a similar mechanic here where it's like, oh, you know, this wizard can only do this beam attack 3 times or something like that?
Yeah, so the main character is a wizard, and her strength kind of is chain lightning. So it's all, like, if you can get all the enemies together, it's really good, but her single target is not necessarily that great compared to other characters.
But you can do all those things as many times as you want. It's just there's inherent strengths and weaknesses in the character. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So just a really fun time, like, caught me off guard, and, you know, the whole thing was like 10 hours. Just my style, you know, coming of age story in a school is like I'm always on board for stories like that. And then, you know, wrapped up in a tabletop tactics game. So I was just, I'm really into that game. Yeah,
it sounds really charming, and I'm definitely a sucker for strategy games and, you know, fantasy tabletop settings as well. So you've got me intrigued for sure.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool game. It's called C&C in the story, not D&D.
C&C. So is it? What is that? Yeah. Let me see if I can guess what that stands for.
Now. I totally forget. I finished it a couple weeks ago now.
C&C.
I totally forget.
That just makes me think Command and Conquer.
And
Ooh, Creatures is good. Creatures and Castles, or Castles and Creatures?
Yeah, something like that.
I totally forget. Now I want to like look it up.
Yeah, I just think of Command and Conquer. So I spent last weekend playing through Crash Bandicoot 4, which I really think people should play through because it's super fun, even if you don't.
How hard is it?
Well, that ranges a little bit. It depends on how. If you're like, I'm doing everything, it's gonna be brutal. But even just going through the story and going through all the levels, like I did, was definitely at the end. So it's the last level before the final boss. There's kind of an end gauntlet that is super. I had a lot of lives when I started it. I did not have a lot of lives when I finished it. So yeah, it's challenging for sure. But goddamn, did I enjoy it. I didn't know how to feel about this until I played the demo. Once I played the demo, I was like, okay, this is a really cool game. And they are bringing it. Like, not only do I think Toys for Bob have this excellent understanding of what makes a good Crash game, I think just like on a basic design level, this game is good. Like, it much like Nintendo does at their best, they know when to get out. like you go to all these different worlds. So the whole theme is time travel and time. And so you're going to like, you have like this Mad Max post-apocalyptic world. You have a dinosaur world. You have a futuristic world. And there are never too many stages. You're in each world just as long as you should be. And there are mechanics within that world that you don't really like just see repeated constantly. And so you're getting a lot of interesting level design. You're getting a lot of cool enemies. And I think beyond that, the layer that Crash 4 really brings is beyond playing as either Crash or Coco, you can play as Dingodile. You can play as Neo Cortex, and you can play as Tana, and all of them, they're all different from each other and tremendously different from Crash and Coco. Whereas like Dingodile has this Luigi's Mansion-esque sort of vacuum, and he can suck up like TNT boxes and shoot them at things. And he's got this really cool like hover where he'll kind of shoot up at the end, and you have to use that in his platforming. Neo Cortex can't double jump, but he has this gun that can turn enemies into different types of platforms. So he can turn them into like a solid platform, he can turn them into a bouncing platform, or depending on what they are, he can turn them into like this invisible platform that you can pass through. And he's this crazy dash that you have to master and figure out when to utilize. And Tana, I really like Tana. I think there could be a whole game around her because she has this grapple hook. And it's just fun. Like you can use it to hit boxes kind of deep in the background, or there are plenty of times where it's like, oh, there's a grapple point over there, and so I need to wall jump, which is something else that she can do, and then grapple to a distant ledge. But yeah, if you like platformers, there's no reason not to play this game. Like I really think it is excellent in a lot of ways. I do think the challenge will frustrate some people, but even then, like there's different modes that you can play. There's modern and retro. Retro is when you run out of lives, you have to do the level all over again. That's the mode that I picked, but even that is pretty forgiving because it kind of has like dynamic difficulty. If you die a lot, they'll put more checkpoints in. And Crash has done this before, of course, but also when you die, you'll get a mask or two masks that will you can absorb some hits, and so there definitely is some cushion there for error, and it's tough, but it's certainly not impossible by any means.
Nice. Yeah, I really want to play this.
You should.
You know, love Crash. Never fully finished or invested in the originals, but it's like always been such a cool game. Like just like brings me back, dude. I feel like a friend always had Crash. Like Crash is the game your friend had or something. Like would always just go and play a couple of these stages. And then obviously when the Insane Trilogy came out, kicked my butt. So that's hearing you say about the difficulty, Ben, is good. Do you think this is easier than Insane Trilogy? Because that game was like Neo for me, dude. Like, like, whoa, are we playing Ninja Gaiden now, or what's going on?
I think this was last year or the year before. I think it was within the last year I played through the Insane Trilogy. I played all three games back to back. Crash 1, definitely, unquestionably the hardest. Crash 2 has some challenge, but is easier. And then I don't think Crash 3 is that hard. I think this is probably like maybe around Crash 2 levels. Don't think it's probably as hard or as unforgiving as Crash 1 is. I so like that brutal. Fucking bridge level in Crash 1 is the worst.
Dude, I think that's where I died. That's where I started on that shit.
That thing is awful. But I think kind of I like Crash 1 a lot, but I think unlike the challenge in Crash 1, I think these levels are just more interesting to go through. I think if you are absolutely a completionist and you can't let things go, I think you're going to drive yourself insane. But I know some people are super into that. But yeah, just in terms of the types of challenges that you're going through, I think like thinking back to Crash 1, levels were very one-dimensional in the sense that it's like, okay, here's this one thing that you're doing this level. And that's not necessarily bad, but I think what Crash 4 has going through for it is you're getting these masks as you're going throughout time, and these masks do different things. And so you get one that will phase in certain objects and phase out others. And so you'll be jumping along, and it's like you have to phase things in and out to create platforms for yourself, or to create to make like harmful boxes go away. There's another one where you can slow down time, and there are like these like ice platforms falling really quickly, and you have to slow down time and get across before that effect wears off. There's another one where you just flip and you're upside down, and that's really disorienting. And you'll have to go from right side up to upside down. And so not only within a level, but I would say as the game goes on and you get more tools, like there's just so much variety there. And shout out to the environmental artists. Like there are times where you'll just kind of like come up over a hill and there'll be so much going on in the background. But yeah.
That's fun. Is it co-op or no? Single player?
I think it's just single player. I only played it single player, so that's all I can speak to. But I'm not actually sure on that. Yeah.
Does it feel like a new era for Crash? Is this the triumphant return
it really
many
does,
of us have been
man.
waiting for, or is it like because I feel like the Insane Trilogy was kind of that game was so huge, it blew up, it brought Crash back, so like it just feels like this is like it's the sequel, but it doesn't necessarily feel as big as that moment was. What do you think, Ben?
So this is actually something I wanted to bring up with you guys, and that I cannot put my finger on. I don't understand, because definitely when Insane Trilogy came out, and I think this is true with CTR as well, that coming back, there was definitely a lot of excitement and buzz, and it definitely felt like it kind of collectively captured people's attention. I think the people that are playing Crash 4 are really enjoying it, but it certainly does. It seems more muted than I was expecting, especially considering the level of quality that it is. Like, this game doesn't overly rely on nostalgia. It seems to get what Crash is and build upon it successfully. Like, I really don't know what else it could be doing. Like, it kind of nailed it.
Right.
As far as making a sequel to a series that was dead not that long ago. But there just doesn't seem, I think there was kind of at the announcement of the game, but on release, there just doesn't seem to be as much hype as I was expecting. I don't know if that's just an issue of perception or if you guys feel that way too.
I feel the same way. It's a little like muted is the perfect descriptor of how I'm feeling about it and how I've perceived kind of the launch of it. I mean, I guess that's just comparing it though to Insane Trilogy, because that felt like such a zeitgeist. It felt so huge.
That's because Crash was like back actually after so long.
I have to wonder if maybe just the last few years of things have had an impact, because like thinking about it, right, you had Crash come back and you had Spyro come back. And then, you also have things like Yooka-Laylee and then Yooka-Laylee Impossible Lair. And so I think and even things like Hat in Time, which are kind of inspired by that general era of platforming. And so I wonder if there's just been like the platformer resurgence happened and maybe it's just not as exciting to people. I don't know. I really don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know about like a lot of platformers I don't see just getting that kind of attention, I think people are quietly enjoying these games. Have a real good time, but like I guess if you're just looking at Twitter or whatever, you might not see a ton about it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Quietly enjoying it.
But
like that.
Like I really think, and I'm not here to beg you to play games, but I think you both would really enjoy it. And I encourage more people to check it out. I really think it's worth the time.
Sick.
What is also worth the time, and I talked about last time, so I really want to give Huber the floor to share his frame trap thoughts on Hades.
Jesus. Hades. Freaking like GOATY contender.
It is.
Dude,
like it's just straight up one of the best games of the year.
Very good.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. This game. I'm so mad. I always have review regrets. I'm so mad that I didn't say this is the game where you sit down to play it for 5 minutes and 4 hours goes by. Just melts away. Time melts when you play
saw that
Hades.
happen firsthand with you too.
Yeah, I missed the Easy Allies podcast because I was playing Hades. I was supposed to be on the podcast and I was just like so far in the Hades hole that like an hour after I was supposed to be on, I was like, checked Slack and like came to and was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
What speaks to its quality more than anything is I thought once I got that first clear, I would be done.
No.
And I'm having just as much time, just as much fun playing it now as I was when I was first learning it. And
Yes.
when I say first learning it, it's like that's something else that's kind of cool about the game is I feel like every time I play it, I glean just a little bit more knowledge. Whether that is like, oh, this combination of boons is really effective, or you just try it. Like, I love the feeling in Hades where you're like, I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm not sure if this is going to work. And then like it starts working and then you start like bolting on like, okay, this is working. Well, if I add this onto this, and it's just, it's this really quick, dynamic and fulfilling like building of a character that is so incredibly addicting.
It's so addicting. Every single run. The learning curve is so perfect in this game. Like you were saying, just you start out, you don't really know, what's going on. You're not used to the mechanics yet and the enemies. And just like the way your character grows and your skill grows is so freaking rewarding and addicting. Like you start unlocking weapons, different currencies. Just the progression in this game is some of my favorite progression that I can remember in a long, long time.
So how many times have you cleared it at this point?
I think I'm at 5 or 6.
Okay, I am at 4
6,
at the moment.
Yeah.
1.
Nice. That one feels the best.
Yeah.
It really does.
I haven't gotten to play a ton of it, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played in a while.
It was
'cause of
great.
the Mafia review.
What I really like as well is the way that the story unfolds. It just how every character in their own way seems like they're adding a new dimension to it without feeling like just the way they present it. Like when you're getting these boons, right? The gods have a little bit of a conversation with you, or sometimes when you go into certain rooms, you'll meet somebody and they'll talk to you. But it doesn't feel like they go on and on and on and on. It's just like really concise. It's to the point, and it feels like it adds just enough, often enough.
Yes. There's that. There's the hub area. I just love the Hall of Hades. Like coming down in between runs, talking to everyone, giving nectar to people, building the bonds. Like there's just it seems like, yeah, even after you clear it once, there's just so much more beyond that. And I know one of the big criticisms, there's a few big criticisms of roguelikes for people that don't gravitate towards them, is story, which I think this game absolutely 100% nails contextually. Just every time you do a run and you die or succeed, like that is moving the plot forward. So I think the story for a roguelike is the best of all time, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of games down the line that try to mimic this. And replaying. A lot of people that don't like roguelikes are like, oh, I don't like dying and just like starting over. I will say it's so addicting because you're getting permanent upgrades. So just like the story, even if you fail, chances are you're still going to progress your character forward and build his stats. And to what Ben was saying, just the randomness of the boons is so exciting without being annoying, because you're like out of the 50 or 70 runs of done, like maybe 1 or 2 or 3, like so few times my build has been terrible where I've just been like, whatever.
I like definitely have had multiple terrible builds.
Yeah, like it happens a couple times, but like for the most part, your build is going to be viable. You're going to find a way to make it work. And I think because it's bad a few times, it makes it even more rewarding, like when it's good or when it's great.
Right.
So I just think the game is very forgiving, and there's even like a god mode that you can turn on for people that don't like a challenge. Like if you just want to hang out in the game and get through it, you can do that. It's so forgiving and so rewarding every time you play it, whether you're advancing the story or building your character.
It's just something that I think not all of these games have that Hades has is whether I have a bad build or a good build, I think if you take all the randomness away and you just focus on how each weapon feels, they feel phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
throwing the shield around, doing the bull rush, using like the sword special and like getting that AoE effect, or just like pulling back the bow. I think just on a fundamental level, these weapons feel good enough that is like the core of what is bringing me back, where
Yes.
whether I'm doing well or I'm doing poorly, I'm just having so much fun playing that kind of overrides a lot of other things.
And the dopamine, man. Like, you're upgrading those weapons, you're unlocking the different aspects, you're upgrading your freaking room, you're adding things to your room, you're getting gems and like building the Hall of Hades out and like changing the decorations. The weapon aspects, Ben, they change how you use each weapon so much. Like, my go-to now, my number one, I like need to stop using it because I need to like clear with other weapons to get more rewards, is the spear. You throw it and then you dash towards it, and then when you dash towards it, then your next 3 attacks are like plus 150% damage. So I'm just like, throw, dash, cha cha cha, throw, dash, cha. And it's just like, depending on the weapon, depending on the aspect, like they all feel so different. It's so great.
Yeah, I have weapon aspects. I haven't been able to mess around with them too much. And every time I talk about Hades, like I immediately want to do like several runs back to back. But a moment that I was like, okay, this game is really something special is as I was learning, I think this is very natural, right? Where you are like, okay, I'm going to find the weapon that feels most comfortable for me. And that ended up being the shield. And I was like, I know I'm going to get my first clear with my shield. It's just clicking with me. And then once I had that clear, like I kind of felt this affinity to the shield. And I'm like, I'm worried that I'm going to try another weapon and it's not going to work out as well for me. I went with the spear and I was like, I love this just as much. I really do.
Favorite.
And then I went to the bow and arrow and I was like, I love this just as much. And I've enjoyed playing every single weapon. And
the gun is crazy.
The gun is really good. Yeah. And they all feel substantially different. You mentioned the permanent upgrades, and I love how dramatic some of them can feel. I mean, like getting extra Death Defiance is game changing. It's huge.
Extra death, extra dash, extra rewards. Like when you play, I love that that's so genius too, is before every run, a random weapon will have Dark Thirst that will, if you bring it into that run, it'll give you 20% darkness. And then if you upgrade it too, you can get 20% extra gems. So it's like, dude, 20% extra of both of those. Like, obviously I want to use this weapon now.
And Huber, I love that design.
So genius.
That is a big reason why I decided to experiment with other weapons. And I think, I really think games should do that. They should incentivize players to get out of their comfort zone, because if you can do it, it's so rewarding, but you want there to be a tangible benefit for doing so. Yeah, absolutely. And I love the layers, man. Like once you figure out like what the nectar does, and it's like, oh, I can use this nectar to, tweak my builds a little bit. So I can, once I have a better knowledge of like, okay, this is what Athena does, this is what Artemis does, like you can use that to your advantage and go after specific things, and that's fun too.
Yeah, all the items too, all the shit, I forget what they're called now, the artifacts, like that you can bring in one at a time. The keepsakes, and then each time you clear an entire region, you can swap out your keepsakes. But you have
to invest to be able to do that. To swap out between.
So players, I love just like, I'm going to start with Charon's Purse. I'm going to start this run with an extra 155 gold. Then when I get to the next area, I'm going to switch it up to do the Lucky Tooth, so I have an extra death. But then if I haven't died yet, maybe I'll hold off on that and use something else. Like, there's always something to think about, always something to do. It's just so freaking addicting and fun. Oh my God, Hades. I cannot praise it enough.
When we were talking about it earlier, it might have been last week, Huber, I said, if I had to think of criticisms, I was like, maybe there could be one more area.
Sure.
But I don't think I stand by the criticism anymore. Something that I like is, it's like, I can do a run now in like 30 minutes, and I like the quickness of it, and I don't know if another area would really benefit all that much, because I think something smart that Hades does, despite only being 4 areas, is that they modify the bosses of those areas. So it's like, yes, you're technically kind of fighting the same thing, but it'll be slightly different here and slightly different there. And so I think changing it up like that adds a lot to the replayability, for sure.
Totally. I mean, in a perfect world, maybe on like your 5th or 6th clear, maybe it'll like throw in an extra world, or like rotate one out, or like maybe fully rotate a boss. But such a nitpick for such an excellent game. I could see it going either way, like you were saying, because it's so nice, like knowing kind of what to expect to plan ahead.
Yeah. I'm so sick of the Hydra boss in it, dude. Like,
The
does that
Hydra
change
boss,
or anything?
It does, yeah. You get different
Okay.
variations of it. I will say
attacks,
that I
yeah.
think like the Hydra boss is even easier than the first boss. Once you
Yeah,
figure
Hydra
out how
boss
to...
is so super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been cool if like that swapped.
Like, I was hoping that would change. Yeah, like going through it once.
It
sounds
does
like it
change,
does.
but
Is it still like the Hydra?
Yes.
Like, he might have a few attacks, but I was hoping
Yeah.
to be more like rapidly different some of the areas.
like a different enemy would have been cool, but
Sure.
just love it so much.
Yeah, it's very good.
Uh,
Very good.
I don't know how Hades doesn't come up for best soundtrack this year. Like, the music is goddamn unbelievable.
2020 music, dude.
Yeah.
It's everyone loses because there's been so much good music this year. It's going to be insane, dude. Streets of Rage 4, like 100 other games.
Huber, I don't
Blood
disagree
and I
with you,
have
but
like
I think
sweats
Hades is like up
top
there. Yeah.
tier for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Crazy.
Crazy. Hey, but that's how it goes. Like this
Crazy
HOTTAKE!
Oh shit.
So I've been pretty consumed by Baldur's Gate 3 this week. And so that, of course, made me reflect on early access. And that's what is going to be the HOTTAKE this week. And I kind of want to revisit how we feel about early access right now. Because I was thinking to myself, like, this game that is super unfinished and super buggy in a lot of ways is one of my favorite games of the year. And it's $60. You have to pay $60 right now to get a chunk of Baldur's Gate 3. And that definitely gave me some conflicting feelings. And I have a series of questions that I want to kind of go through with early access. But to start us at a base here, I guess I want to know, in general, what are your feelings on early access?
I like to wait. It's well documented, you know, like I love to wait for a full game. I just have unlimited games to play. Why would I play something unfinished? You know, to me, early access is a demo.
Yeah.
Like Rogue Legacy 2, Ben, we hopped into that early access earlier this year.
Right.
And I kind of just treated it like a demo. Like, I remember talking to you, you know, I thought, oh, maybe each time they do a biome, I'll hop back in. But now as time, I've gotten away from it and time has moved on, it's like, okay, I enjoyed my time with it. I'm just going to wait for the full release. I treated it just as a demo.
So
I like to wait just because I have so many options, so many things to play. I just want the most optimized experience version, you know, the finished package.
Huber, I totally understand that. And I agree in a lot of instances, but Baldur's Gate 3 has really challenged my perception of it. And a lot of it has to do with the type of game it is. So obviously, like I've been super anticipating Baldur's Gate 3 for a long time. So I was going to play it no matter what. But actually, because of the way that it was structured, so we got like pre-early access code and then our saves got wiped. And so I had to do like hours of stuff again, and I was really dreading it. I was like super bummed, but it ended up being a huge benefit because I was able to take the knowledge that I had kind of into that second run, and I learned so much, and there were things that I missed. And I think with a game that is as complex and offers as many choices as Baldur's Gate 3 does, I feel like when I go into the full release, it's like I'll have all of this knowledge that will probably make playing through even more enjoyable. You know, I'll be lowering kind of that hill that you climb in terms of like just how things work.
I think it helps with games that have a lot of replayability.
Yeah.
Like, when I think of like Hades when it was in early access,
Right.
it's probably still great, and seeing the changes over time, you still have fun going back to it because it's like just great replaying it. And I think Baldur's Gate, like you said, Ben, is kind of the same way. Like I could easily see myself playing again and just doing something drastically different.
Yeah. So you think, Brad, to kind of get your general take on early access, you think it really depends on the game?
Yeah, to me, it's totally a case-by-case basis. Like, some things I feel like now, especially in our job, sometimes I feel like it's too big for me to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of, like, Baldur's Gate, I'm like, shit, I have to play this.
Mm-hmm.
Not only am I excited to play it, but I want to be able to talk about it because it's such a huge game.
Yeah.
But, like, some games, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I can wait. I don't really need to play this right now.
Do you think early access is becoming more prevalent? And would you be okay with it being more prevalent in the future?
It seems like it's more prevalent now. I guess, like, I think it's just as long as everything's transparent and you know what you're getting into, it's fine.
Right.
Like, as long as you know that, it's okay. Like, I don't know if I would want to play, like, let's say the next Zelda game. I don't know if I'd really want to play an early access version of that.
Oh, Brad,
but maybe I would.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But it is, like, it's super hard for me to take a hard stance on it because, like we said earlier, it is literally just case by case and if I'm feeling it or not.
Brad, you actually hit on one of my questions, which is, would we be okay with, like, sort of a lot more major gaming franchises going into early access, like just hypothetically considering a Zelda early access or a Final Fantasy early access or
I don't know,
whatever,
man.
There's many names that you could throw at.
Yeah.
And this is not going to be the case for everybody, but as somebody who's very invested in Baldur's Gate 3, I'm really curious to see, from what I've heard, they handled Divinity Early Access super well, and I'm curious to see, like, okay, how directly do they respond to feedback? Like, I feel like despite being in this industry, we don't really get a great look at how games are made, and so I'm kind of interested in seeing how this thing evolves, and I think that's kind of cool. It's like, how drastically do they change this? How much do they add?
I've been watching, WoW Shadowlands has been in beta for a while.
Yeah.
Or it was alpha then beta. I've been keeping tabs on it, just seeing like how things and like it's changed quite a bit, man. Just like even gameplay systems, how they work now are just so much more different from player feedback.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with you on that sense of seeing its progression is
it's just interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huber, let's say Resident Evil 9, just, play ball with me here. Coming out early access, full thing won't be out for a year after the early access version comes out. Would you do it? Would you jump in? I mean, I think people would definitely expect you to, right?
Yeah, I'd probably have to stream it. I mean, but if I like didn't have to stream it or cover it,
you wouldn't.
Like, I'd want to wait.
Okay.
Because I feel like if Resident Evil was early access, it would be like, hey, play up until this point in the story, this point in the game. And I just, like, that's always in the back of my mind with early access is, like, I feel like time is so precious. I have 1 trillion movies and shows and games I want to play.
Yeah.
And the amount of hours put into early access could be served so much better elsewhere with, like, a finished game.
I don't know. It's kind of weird. I kind of think of, like, almost like a demo, Ben.
Yeah.
You could play this demo of this game a year before it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would play it in a lot of instances.
Yeah.
Like, I think of episode BESTAKE or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, yes,
a lot of fun
I
with
played
that.
that game. I made an effort to play that kind of thing. And it's like, that changed dramatically from that.
I'm big on, I had this conversation with Kyle, I remember. I'm big on first steps. It's why I never played episode BESTAKE. Because my first steps in a video game are really special. Like, every time you boot up a game for the very first time, first time you move,
definitely.
First night you play that game, just no matter what, is different. Your first session with a game is always different than the other sessions. So I like to keep that close and special and sacred.
So I want to challenge this a little bit because I do think in some ways it just comes down to perception. So I want to use another recent game that came out that felt like I wish they would have called it early access. That would have felt more transparent, and that is Avengers. thing is a mess, right? So you know,
mess.
I think it's weird a little bit to give all of this sort of credibility to, you know, just calling something not early access when that doesn't guarantee that it won't be a buggy, unfinished mess.
Right.
I will say at least the campaign story was like done, you know, so I guess that's the distinction. Like you can start Avengers and finish Avengers in a way, you know, you can see the entire story till the credits.
Yeah. And Avengers
in
isn't the only
terms of
example. Yeah,
in terms of bugs, like you're absolutely right. Like it probably should have been early access, especially considering the end game is so bare bones. But yeah, that's an interesting point.
Another thing that I want to bring up is price. So for as much as I'm willing to go for bat to bat for Baldur's Gate 3, and I really do love it, it's weirding me out that it is $60. Right now, this is $60 that you pay, okay, and you don't have to pay more later. You know, it's not like they keep adding on to that. But
it's like pre-purchase. You buy the game now.
I guess just logically, it makes sense to me where it's like, okay, you're going to release a chunk of this game in an unfinished state. That's cool, but I almost feel like you should give a discount for people that are jumping in now, right? Where if it's like, if it's
even $5 or $10,
yeah, even $5 or $10 or $20, I think would be very appropriate. Like, why not do that? Like, why not reward those people who are going in? And I can't really justify it to myself. And I think I would be more okay with early access across the board if there were concessions like that were made.
Well, that usually happens with early access games, is it is cheaper when it is in early access and the price does raise. I've seen that numerous times. So it is interesting that $60 out of the gate.
Yeah, and if it was like $30,
yeah.
I think that'd be appropriate for how big this early access is of this game. I don't know. I wonder if they're just like, well, we want to get, this is a very cynical take, but all the money we can get out of this kind of thing.
I'm sure that's exactly what it is. Yeah. But I don't know. I think
it's a hard ask.
It's a hard ask.
A lot of people.
Yeah, it definitely is
I think for the hardcores, like a lot of people who have been playing it, is like, these are people that are already invested in this game. So they're willing to spend the money because they know, especially with their track record with Divinity, I assume is pretty good. They've built up a lot of good faith. So maybe people are willing to spend a little more for it because of that.
Something that I was thinking about, they was a story from Jason Schreier about CDPR and crunch and all of that. And crunch has been a terrible ongoing problem and has come up repeatedly recently. And I was thinking about early access, and I was like, games are just so incredibly hard to make and so demanding on human resources that it's like, if maybe we found a early access model that everybody could agree with, where it's like, okay, we'll lower the price and like that will kind of maybe extend how long we work on it. And it's just like, if there's any way that we could just make this better for everybody, like theoretically, and this is certainly idealistic, right? I'm not saying that this is a magic bullet or anything. I'm just thinking out loud. I think maybe that would be a worthy trade-off. Do you guys agree with that? You know, if we could maybe reduce crunch and reduce kind of the strain of getting these monumental projects out.
I don't know if early access will necessarily get rid of that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
I just feel like almost like, I don't really know. I'm not a game dev. I just feel like sometimes it almost seems like a crunch phase is almost inevitable with a lot of games. Because it just seems like there's always something to do. Like, rarely do I hear about a game being done. Yeah. Done. That's it. Done.
I think like, that is true, but I think we should always probably be, like, working toward making it better.
Of course. I don't have a problem with trying to figure stuff out like that.
Yeah.
But at this phase in my knowledge of games, it just seems like almost an inevitable thing. At points, like, severity of crunch matters, though.
Yeah, I imagine syncing your development and your marketing to, like, this one exact point is, like, hitting a bullseye. So that's why it always feels like these huge games are crunching.
Yeah.
Just, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, but I say just delay your damn games.
Yeah.
eat your marketing money, even if it's
Right.
millions. Like, I don't know. Shit.
Man, Hubert, like,
Or just pay your employees. Like, I don't know.
delay your damn games is a really interesting point that you bring up, and not something that I was really thinking about because, like, delays matter less to me than ever, even if it's something that I'm really looking forward to and I'm super invested in because there's so much to play, right? And obviously we have the luxury of being in this industry and getting access to a lot of things. But I think there are other things that have made it more accommodating in general as well. You know, I think the rise of Game Pass and just the rise of games being available digitally and the rise of free-to-play games. There's so many things going on. There's so much to sink time into that I think delays hurt less than they used to. Is that a fair point?
I think
don't
it
care at
hurts
all.
us less, maybe. I don't know. I think maybe like windows and release dates do matter for some games, maybe on selling. Obviously not every game. Like I think Call of Duty could probably just come out whenever it wants and just be just fine. But I do wonder about like strategic release dates for some companies, especially smaller companies, stuff like that, who don't have the benefit of like advertising. They don't want to get buried in a certain time of the year by other games.
I have to wonder if early access contributes to FOMO or the fear of missing out in a negative way, where like I feel like I saw this a little bit with Baldur's Gate, where like I feel like people were like, oh, I wanted to wait, but like everybody's talking about it right now and all these people are streaming it and like I kind of feel like I want to get in on it. And I understand that, but I feel like so much of gaming is kind of dominated by what we refer to as the zeitgeist. And I don't always think that's good, right? I understand that impulse. I feel that impulse. It's a very human impulse to feel. But I don't always think it's necessarily the healthiest. And I wonder if, you know, that culture and releasing things before they're ready only contributes to that sensation further. Hubert, do you think?
I think FOMO.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, people want to like know what's going on, be a part of something.
Yeah.
People want to get in that Genshin Impact, dude.
But yeah, just from like my personal standpoint is like I tried to want to stay on top of some games, even if I don't have the best knowledge about it, because you know it is our job to cover games. Like not everyone needs to do that, but some things I definitely want to check out just to have information about. Like I could wait for Baldur's Gate. I could wait.
Yeah,
I'd be okay in being able to wait, but I don't regret playing it or anything.
No, I mean in our position, right? It's like, yeah, I was going to play it no matter what, but it's nice to get your perspective. It's nice to have, you know, another ally comment on what's going on for sure. It has been, there's been a lot of controversies with games, things releasing in unfinished state, things still releasing buggy. You know, we've definitely seen a rise of early access. Do you have any fears going into the next generation that we're going to see repeats of stuff? Like, are people going to continue to pay for broken things in an unfair way?
Yes. I feel like that's just a cycle. Depending on, like, I don't know if the scale will always be the same, but there will definitely be games that come out that aren't finished or ready to come out.
Yep.
Like, we're still seeing it. Like, you just said Avengers. It's like, it's 2020. Like, shit like that still happens, you know?
It's so weird with Avengers, and, like, I am amazed at how into that game I was and how out of it I am now. Like, I just truly don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Just from someone who didn't play a lot of it, it seemed like you guys went pretty hard on it.
Yeah.
And maybe you just got burnt out.
Well, I felt like my investment was not being rewarded. Like, it's almost the opposite of Hades, right? Where I felt like
that's the thing I had with Avengers. I didn't feel like I was ever going to get this reward from investing in it besides like some numbers going up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but even that, like, I enjoy numbers going up, and I just feel like there are other games that make the numbers go up better than
because
that did.
the numbers going up better and it's more enjoyable doing that than some other games.
Yeah, like it's really I honestly think you could put Hades and Avengers side by side of like exactly how to make progression and that loop addicting and consuming, and Avengers not, right? Or yeah.
Needs a lot of tweaks.
Are we ready for some emails?
Yes.
Our first email comes in from John. He says, a YouTube perspective on next gen. Oops, hold on a second, guys.
Next gen.
Next gen.
Next gen showdown.
Hey, Allies. As time has passed and we've gotten closer to the next generation of consoles, it has seemed to me like Microsoft has been making a lot of good decisions, things that should please potential customers. Game Pass, backwards compatibility, smart delivery. Meanwhile, Sony seems to have had a few missteps to me. The changing of Peter Parker's face and Spider-Man Remastered being the latest in line. Mumblings of arrogant Sony are back seem to be bubbling away. Yesterday, as I write this question, Sony put up the PlayStation 5 teardown video on YouTube. It has 4.7 million views in about 24 hours. So I went looking for the Xbox Series X equivalent. It seems the closest thing is a Digital Foundry video that does basically the same thing. It was posted 6 months ago and has 340,000 views. There is another video that Xbox put up that talks about what's in the hardware, but it only has 85,000 views. This is obviously not a like-for-like comparison, but the massive difference intrigued me, so I went digging. Both consoles have had two major events showing games. Microsoft started with the first look Xbox Series X gameplay video. The one was Scorn. It has 1.6 million views on the Xbox channel. Sony had the Future of Gaming event, the one that started with GTA 5 and had Horizon Forbidden West, and it has 15 million views on the PlayStation channel. Microsoft had the Xbox Game Showcase with Halo Infinite gameplay in July. It has 1 million views, although IGN has a video of it that has another 1 million, and the Halo gameplay video from that has 1.2 million, so it's hard to get a definitive figure. At most 3 million, I guess. But note, I didn't add IGN or anyone else to any other event video. I was feeling generous. Sony then had the PlayStation 5 showcase 3 weeks ago. It has 4.7 million views on the PlayStation channel. Is this a problem for Microsoft going into next gen? Do views show hype levels for these consoles? Is there a good reason Xbox views are consistently lower? Do Xbox fans typically prefer other platforms to watch stuff? And if it is a problem, what more can they do to turn it around? Thanks so much, and everyone should play Trails of Cold Steel. John P.
So I'm going to say that I think it's just the games and the interest in these games that they have shown. Like the first Xbox thing, I can't even remember really what they showed off.
Right.
Like in their very first thing. I remember it not being great and a lot of people not being super happy about it. But like he said earlier, I remember the first Sony one, it's like, here's Demon's Souls. Here's a game people love. Here's Horizon, a huge sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think Microsoft has the games yet that people really want right off the bat. Like the huge AAA, like your God of War kind of games. Like obviously Halo is a big deal, but that's kind of it right now. Mm-hmm. And it's not even going to be a launch game, which I do think hurts them. They've made a lot of huge moves recently, and I think we'll start to see that play out in the years down the line.
Yeah.
But at this moment in time, I think just Sony has more an enticing offer for a lot of people from a game software-wise.
My lighting gets so fucked up as we shoot Frame Trap. It drives me nuts.
Sun goes down, baby.
Sun goes down. I just
Sun's
can't get it like where I want it. You mentioned Halo, Brad, and I think that the interesting thing to bring up regarding Halo, right, is like Halo is absolutely huge and a lot of people care about it, but like regardless of your own personal opinion, like they didn't knock it out of the park. Halo Infinite came like bumbling out of the gates, and there was a lot of mixed reception and apprehension that followed Halo Infinite, and so I think that's a big part of it. And they really haven't had anything. They haven't played up anything that really rivals, I think, what Sony has. They don't have anything a Horizon 2
like that yet.
Yeah, they don't have a Miles Morales. They don't have a Demon's Souls.
They've done a great job of marketing the system, the console itself, and the features and the functionality.
I think it's a great point.
But they haven't done well to show the big games. You know, they showed their biggest Halo and they botched it. So I think for the most part, games are the most important thing to a lot of people. And if you can crush all these other things, but if you bring your main showpiece game and you botch it, like that's going to do a lot more damage than goodwill with all the other functionality and systems they've shown.
Like, honestly, the most interesting game or one of the most I'm hyped for is Fable from them, but that's years away.
They showed
like two years away. Yeah,
they almost showed nothing, right? Like
exactly.
Other than the fact that
you might as well have not shown anything, like just a logo. Like that's how far away from a lot of stuff. Obviously they have a lot cooking now. They have a ton of studios.
Bethesda.
But yeah, at this moment in time, there's not a whole lot to show.
I think, and you guys weren't on this, but on the last episode of Frame Trap, Ian, Damiani, and myself, we kind of compared the launch games of the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. And with Xbox, it was like, wait, what is this game? Do you know what this is? Do you remember this? And it was just a lot of like confusion and lack of clarity. And so I don't think they've done a good job of leveraging what they have and really getting out there and being like, yeah, this game's great. And as a big Yakuza fan, they have, a next-gen exclusive or timed exclusive, I should say, of Yakuza 7, but I don't even really think they're utilizing that very well. Like, I think Yakuza 7 is going to be great, and I think that they should be, like, really going into detail of why you should play this if you're getting an Xbox Series X.
It's a good entry point, it seems like, for newcomers to come in.
Yeah.
Kind of like how
Drop
Zero
that
was.
7 from the title.
Yeah.
I don't think they see Yakuza, though, as
I keep forgetting that they
huge
dropped
game.
the 7. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. They, like, we love Yakuza, but I don't think it's, like, the huge game to get, like, random new people into your system.
I don't think it is either.
It shows me, though, moves like that, man. That move and buying Bethesda, like...
Yeah.
Microsoft is wisening up, I feel like. They're getting smarter.
They're getting smarter for sure, but it's going to take time.
I just don't think they're, like... Yeah, Brad, Yakuza is not Halo, right? That's obvious, but I think because they no longer have Halo, they should leverage what they have more effectively than what they're doing.
They're not really like flexing anything, it seems like, besides Game Pass. Like Game Pass, like great, awesome, but like it's like the only other game I'm excited for that's coming from them is like The Medium,
I'm
and that's not till December.
Excited. Yeah.
So at launch, it's like, well, shit, what are you gonna play, man?
Yep.
You're gonna play a lot of multiplats.
Huber, you bringing up the Bethesda acquisition is a really good point, and I do think it speaks to them making moves, right? And I don't know how those moves exactly are going to play out, but I think the next couple of years are going to be very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, you go, you give me Evil Within 3, Xbox exclusive. Let's get that going.
You get Evil Within 3, you'll get like Xbox branded on your ass, right? Like,
Yep. I'll get the tattoo, man. I'll get the Xbox tattoo right here. Let's go.
Ink me up.
Xbot. Our next email comes in from Adam. Hey, all. I don't believe it would actually... Oh, GOTY eligibility is the subject of this. I don't believe it would actually be nominated for anything. So this is really more of a thought experiment.
Okay.
All right.
Let's experiment.
Jeff Keighley recently suggested that Among Us might be nominated this year at his awards. Technically, the game has received some periodic general updates, but it came out years ago. Other industries have a hard cutoff for eligibility, of course, but release dates are becoming blurrier for games. Would you allow Among Us to appear in any category? Well, it's hard to argue against its importance in 2020. It simply didn't come out this year. And I vaguely remember you disqualifying Hollow Knight in 2018 on similar grounds. Did we? Maybe we did. I don't remember.
Because it was on PC, then it came to Switch later.
But is Hades more acceptable simply because it's a changed version in 2020 to version 1.0? What about ongoing games entering new seasons? The only thing as certain is it's getting murkier every year.
Well, Hades wasn't out. It was early access. There's
we usually do it by when it's official release, not necessarily early access.
Yep.
Like when the studio says their game is officially done and complete is when we judge it by that.
Yes.
Launch.
I
launch in the year. That's it.
I agree.
Simple.
That is generally the case. However, what I will say, and this email kind of addressed it itself, is like, I'm sure you can find plenty of inconsistencies if you compare every single Easy Allies game of the year back to back to back. Because nothing is set in stone, and the industry is constantly changing, and I think our own expectations and opinions are constantly changing. So to say, like, it is for sure going to be this way for 2020 GOTY, I don't think we know that entirely yet.
No, not till we talk about it.
Right.
So,
not till Blood.
as for Jeff, it's his show, so I guess he can kind of make the rules how he wants.
Right. But Among Us, I think specifically being nominated, I think if it's an interesting question. I think what it would most naturally fall under is like, most impactful game of 2020
or
something
trending. Something like that. Yeah.
I definitely think there is a category for it, but GOTYs and categories can be vague and
tricky.
Frustrating and constantly changing.
Yep.
Yes. Prepare for inconsistencies.
Prepare for heartbreak, really.
Soundtrack,
Yeah.
man. Someone's getting their heart. Everyone's getting their
Everyone's
heart
getting their
broken.
heart broken, dude.
Every
You kidding
game.
me? That happens to every GOTY. Someone gets upset.
How's Melody of Memory not going to get best soundtrack? Like,
Boy, that's a whole.
how's Hades?
That's a whole
How's Streets
can
of
of
Rage?
worms.
There's 100 games.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
think rhythm games that are using music from other games makes it really. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not ready to have this conversation yet. Our last email comes in from Brandon. Hold on a second. Timestamps. What developers / publishers had a good 8th gen? Hello, everyone. As is often the case when we reach the end of a generation and or decade, for this cycle both, a lot of conversation reminisces on what the best games were during that stretch of time, but not enough about the actual developers or publishers who provided said games. So I wanted to ask you, panel, what developers did their best work or burst onto the scene over this last generation you want to highlight? What publisher had the strongest showing, mitigating negative stories while simultaneously putting out great games? Thank you for taking my question if you do, and stay easy, fellow allies.
Capcom wins easily.
Oh boy, Capcom came back to life, right?
Easy victory.
Yeah, they had a
Yeah.
nice
for Capcom.
resurgence now.
Huber, you nailed it out the gate. It's
Like,
not
it's
like
done.
Capcom was unknown, but the quality level of what they're producing now is
feels like they're fighting themselves again,
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah, between Resident Evil 2, 3, Monster Hunter World, Devil May Cry 5, it's nuts.
Yeah. Then I just think about From Software every time. And I'm like, oh yeah, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro. I'm like,
Yeah.
goddamn, those are good games.
I
think
I agree with
think
you.
Capcom had a more impressive comeback.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about From Software is I felt like they just continued that level of quality, which is impressive
Exactly.
and not meant to
Exactly.
be diminished. But yeah, they
Capcom was in a rough spot.
right.
Yeah.
And they came back big.
Certainly not without controversy, right? But CD Projekt Red, I think, is one to talk about, where I think they went from not an unknown developer, right? Like Witcher certainly had a claim before Witcher 3, but I think Witcher 3 blew them up in a way that they were pushed into a status that they were not before.
Yep. Definitely, man.
Still, though, only like 1 or 1.5 games.
It'll be 2 games. I
I guess,
or
yeah.
one.
Cyberpunk just will squeak in there,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and we'll see how Cyberpunk is received.
Yeah.
Let's see who else.
I've been happier with Square, I guess, than this generation than last generation. I'm trying to think of like PS3 era, Xbox 360 Square games, and it's like 13 trilogy,
Yeah.
like near one. But like this generation, they had like Nier Automata,
Right.
Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 7 remake.
Mhm.
They've had like a Realm Reborn, honestly, is part of that. I would say too.
totally.
Yeah.
Or 14.
Well, that one's a little weird because it's like I think of 14 as a PC game, but it also had a PS3 version, and so it's like
PS3, PS4 version.
Yeah.
Got it.
for a brief period of time.
I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I
see
would
what you're
say
saying.
I would say Naughty Dog, like Uncharted 4 and Last of Us Part 2 sold like gangbusters, and we're both
Sales-wise,
pretty-
yeah.
Yeah, but would you say they had a better, PS4 generation than PS3 generation? I wouldn't necessarily.
I
say
guess
that.
not. Yeah, ending with Last of Us 1 was probably bigger for them.
I would say Team Cherry with Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
Can't,
What other games did they make before that?
I don't know if they did.
Like that's like a bright new star.
Dude, where is Silk Song?
I don't know about their old games if they even have any. But that's
Yeah,
definitely
I
a
think
developer
it's just
that's
Hollow Knight.
blown up.
Oh, yeah, I think it's just Hollow Knight and Silk Song. I could be wrong on that.
Oh my god, how have we not said Insomniac?
Well, I was going to say Insomniac. That was actually what came to mind because I think, Spider-Man especially did so incredibly well. But it's like, I feel like Insomniac did really well during the PS3 generation too.
True.
Yeah, there's like those Ratchet and
Yeah.
Clank games.
You're right.
I like Resistance games. They're not the best, but I had fun with them.
I do think, though, that, Spider-Man is certainly
Yeah.
something to note. And it's the same thing with like Guerrilla and...
Sunset Overdrive
Yeah.
was awesome, but it still kind of came out and went.
Mhm.
It wasn't like a massive game. Love that game, but
No,
Wasn't.
it wasn't massive.
huge, yeah.
Let's see. Are there any more that we can
Feels like
think
Sony Santa Monica only made one game.
Yeah,
That was a big one.
I was thinking about like Sucker Punch, and they've made like 2 kind of, and it's been like the entire thing. Yeah, I would say Capcom. I would say has like the best comeback feel good story though.
Dude,
Like I feel confident in that developer much more than I did last generation. Like much more.
think about how much they did. Like Devil May
Resident Evil
Cry,
2, 3, 7,
yes.
Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter World.
Mega Man 11.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Like bringing Resident Evil back from where it was is super great. Like Devil May Cry being great, rules like Monster Hunter World, like their biggest game ever.
Monster Hunter World is like one of the best games of the generation. I'll fight people to the death.
Was that a 2019 game? 18?
Monster Hunter World?
2018.
I think that was earlier.
Yeah.
Or was it
I want to
18?
say 2018.
Dude, that's one of the games of the decade. No
Yes.
doubt.
Huber?
No doubt.
Yes, you're correct.
No doubt.
It's weird to say this, but I feel like in my mind, Dragon's Dogma 2 will almost seal the deal. Like it's like the cherry on top in a weird way.
That's the last. I think.
That's
dude,
the welcome to next gen for
they
them.
also need a kick-ass fighting game. They also need like a
Yeah, that's to
universally.
say. I think Street Fighter 6 is their biggest test. Whenever that
Yeah,
happens.
I agree. You're not
Like that's like something huge they have to nail. Like I'm confident in them with Devil May or Dragon's Dogma, but
All I
Street
wanna
Fighter I'm
hear-
still curious.
Brad, the only word I want to hear about Dragon's Dogma 2 from them is ambition. Ambitious. I want
Yeah.
Dragon's Dogma 2 to be like the biggest game ever. Just like
You want it to be like Monster Hunter
insane
World
scope.
level of explosion in terms of popularity.
Yeah.
They should absolutely be brought up. Arc System Works really had an incredible generation.
Oh, yeah.
Not only with Guilty Gear XR,
definitely.
but all the projects they worked on in like Dragon Ball Fighters.
Fighters, yeah.
Yeah.
They
really-
definitely got seems like a lot bigger this generation. Oh man.
I'm sure
know.
there's many that we could bring up.
Yeah,
but
yeah, of course.
I think that is going to do it for Frame Trap. This might be the first time that an Easy Allies podcast is slightly longer than Frame Trap. We'll have to see. I don't know what it.
Whoa, holy
edited
shit.
out, but I felt like
Oh,
we
because
covered
Blood hosted, dude, right?
Yeah, Blood hosted.
Dude, he probably went crazy in depth.
Well, we did Pop Tarts and Toaster Strudels.
Oh,
So
okay.
that
That's
took
always a
some
long
time.
one,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep. But I feel like we covered a lot of ground. I had a good time.
Me too.
I hope you had a good time, audience. If you would like to send in an email to FrameTrap, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. Again, that is askeasyallies@gmail.com. The email is also in the description of the podcast or YouTube video. It should be there, hopefully. And yeah, if you want to find out more about us, go to patreon.com/easyallies. We do rely on your direct support to keep this thing going, to keep producing podcasts and shows and reviews and all of that good stuff. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.